3/4 of brilliant play, Gary, and then fumbles started to strike. No big deal. Huskers win their 2 games above 500 for the first time in, well, a very long time. Shout out to Chancellor Brewington from D&D. He came in during the post-game show, answered some questions, broke down the game a little bit. This is uncharted territory for the Huskers, Gary, and I have to wonder, are the Huskers in the running for being the favorites in the Big Ten West? Hit that like for us and tell us in the comments, do you think the Huskers are going to the Big Ten championship game this year, or do you think we're 1 or 2 years away from something that ambitious?
I wouldn't say for being the favorites, at least not yet, but they technically are in the running. As we're doing this, Wisconsin's playing Ohio State, look decent so far. They're down, but if they lose that game, essentially if Nebraska can win out, which I know sounds crazy, but just doing the numbers, if Nebraska wins out, the only thing out of their control they would need is Minnesota to lose 1 game, because they would have tiebreakers over Iowa and Wisconsin if they won every other game except for us. We'd be tied if Minnesota won out, which they'd have the tiebreaker over us, so you'd need them to slip somewhere. But it's crazy to me that that's on the table at this point in the season, especially what a lot of people's expectations were starting the season. You know what I mean? With the Matt Rule first year deals, what we've had the last several years. You know how I like to take things like, once I see it enough, I'm good with it. You know, I don't like being like, well, this will happen or that'll happen. Like, I want to see stuff. And a good example is, like, I've seen enough from the defense. I didn't have worries going into this game that Maccabee would run all over us again. And I felt that with a handful of the running teams just because of what we've seen so far this year. And now I'm to the point where I'm not worried about close games at all. You know, I feel very confident, not just that we're going to find a way to lose close games, but I almost am starting to get confidence to the point where I expect to win the close games, just from the things that, you know, this game, the opening kickoff, they fumble and give them the ball in scoring position, don't give up points. The Illinois game, that first offensive drive, they took the ball right down our throats and got no points out of it inside the 1, right, with 2 tries. Last week, first play of the game's an interception. Just there's no panic anymore. You know, it's just, okay, next play up and everybody execute and we'll be fine. And that seems to not just be said, but actually we're seeing it being played out. So that does lead me to believe that you're going to keep seeing these marginal but still measurable steps in the right direction. And if you do get a team or two that slips up, or you get, especially on the offensive end, a little bit of momentum, or you find something that is a new staple or new permanent fixture that you can build on, yeah, it could be a thing. But I'm not right now getting hyped up or saying, oh yeah, they've got this, you know, this is a real thing, or they should be the team that people would expect to come out. Like, they have to keep doing what they've been doing and probably a little bit more before people are going to start to, like, really believe, outside of Husker fans, obviously, and even a lot of Husker fans. But to me, it's just crazy that we're talking about it and then it's real possibility. I don't know. What's your stance? Like, do you think it's a realistic thing, or do you just think it's cool that it's a possibility, even if it's a long shot?
I'm shocked that we're in this position. I thought that Matt Rule's rebuilds had to take more than a year to get off the ground. I mean, you were always saying, doesn't have to be this way. It shouldn't have to be that way this year. Before I forget, I want to just mention the fact that the Huskers are trucking along through injury after injury. I can't heap enough praise on Matt Rule. But I don't think that I can say that we're the favorites in the West. I'm just not going to put anything past this program anymore. I don't think that this program has a ceiling on it, other than the fact that our offense struggles. But today you saw good passing out of Harvard to go along with the good running we normally get. Our freshman Emmett Johnson looks like he can handle the load. And you're seeing our young freshman wide receivers step up like we've been hoping that they would get the opportunity to do. I feel like the Huskers top out at a really good chance ending the season just shy of the Big Ten championship and thanking their lucky stars that they were in that position. But very best case scenario, sneaking into that Big Ten championship where they might get walloped, let's be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about whether you're going to play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, whatever. Like, that's, to me, that's no more different than beating the teams you've beat and going, well, you haven't beat any really good teams. Yeah, I know, you're just playing these on the schedule. That's out of your control. It would be crazy, like monumentally crazy, if they did make it to there, and they could, but I'm not focused on that, or like really like, oh, they should. We're not at all saying like this is where everything needs to be geared toward. I agree with Rule. I'm like, all you're worried about now is Michigan State, and then all you'll be worried about is Maryland. And it doesn't matter win or lose. And that's kind of the other side of it for me is if we drop one of these games or when we drop another game, whether it's some point this year, sometime next, whatever, you're going to get the knee-jerk reactors again. That's like, here we go, right back to it. They had a good little run when they played these horrible teams. And now, like, say we beat Michigan State next week and then get beat by Maryland. I mean, see, when you play a team with a real offense, that defense don't look so, like, you can split it up and have the perspective based on wins or losses or from play to play, different things like that. So I don't want to get caught up with all that, but it's just, like I said, back to expectations from knowing Rules hired at the beginning of the year to have a possibility still there in the end of October, when for years, our season was over by the beginning of October. It's crazy, man. To me, it's just another big step in the right direction. You hit it on the head talking about the injuries. Like most good established teams with coaches and systems that have been in play for a while would take a noticeable step back if they had the amount of injuries at the positions that we've had. And through that, the team still seems to get even better. So I'm definitely not turning my nose up at the idea that they could be the ones to come out of the West. I'm definitely not hinging expectations on it. Like, if it doesn't happen, I'll be upset or think the season's a disappointment, but I'm not getting my hopes up that it's like a real serious possibility or something to like really get excited about just yet. Maybe in a couple weeks that could change if you keep seeing some improvement, but I don't know, man. I'm just happy that it's a possibility at this point in the season.
Tell us what you guys think in the comments. What are your expectations for the Huskers finishing out the season? We'll see you guys soon for a Michigan State preview. Cannot wait for that game, as a win versus them would solidify the Huskers bowl eligibility. Thanks for hanging out. Go Big Red.